Today, our group will be presenting on language phenomena observed in a recording of interaction between children of ages 5 and 6 in a childcare center. The title of our project is No Conversation is Perfect. One of the language phenomena observed in the video is code switching. So what is code switching? According to Grumpus, code switching is defined as the alternate use of two or more languages in the same utterance or conversation. In the literature of code switching, Jeunesse and colleagues found that French-English bilinguals as young as 2 years of age develop the ability to use and adjust each of their languages differentially and appropriately with parents and with an unfamiliar person. This may demonstrate their competency in communication with others. Another researcher had also found that in natural conversations between two bilinguals, code switching includes 84% single word switches, 10% phrase switches, and 6% clause switches. In addition, Dusha and Key found that children code switch in order to fill their lexical gaps. Now, let's take a look at some examples in which children exemplify code switching. Other research findings have also indicated that older children code switch when they learn that elements of the other language convey the meaning of the intended message more accurately. This finding by Halmari and Smith may provide substantiation for a study conducted by Reyes, who found that code switching may be an indication of the development of a bilingual communicative competence in children who are currently learning a second language. A separate study conducted by McClure on young Spanish-English bilinguals reported that younger children showed more lexical item code switch than older children. This may be supported by the study mentioned earlier, where code switching acts as a means of filling lexical gaps. A common assumption to explain this finding is that children code switch when they do not know the word in one language. Hence, they draw on the other language. On the other hand, a study conducted by Reyes suggests that the number of instances code switching occurs can be interpreted in such a way that reflects a child's developing communicative competence. This suggests that the more code switches there are, the more competent an individual will be in communication. As such, Reyes proposed that a positive relationship exists between bilingual code switching and language proficiency. Lastly, Lanza had found that children may demonstrate more code switching when they speak in their non-native language. So what are some functions of code switching? In a study conducted by Reyes on a group of 7-year-olds and 10-year-old children, he found that there were 4 commonly used types of function. The first function was topic shift, in which code switching occurs due to a change of topic in the conversation. Secondly, code switching is applied to place an emphasis on a specific command. The third function of code switching is clarification, where code switching aids in providing more information to clarify an idea or message. Lastly, we have turn accommodation, where code switching occurs between the speaker's turn. There are 2 types of code switching, namely situational code switching and metaphorical code switching. In situational code switching, as the name suggests, code switching varies according to the situation. Metaphorical code switching occurs within conversations, and here, code switching varies according to discourse functions such as to include or exclude someone from a conversation, to convey intimacy, or to emphasize on a message. There are several factors affecting code switching among individuals. The language ability of an individual is one factor which affects code switching. According to Vu and colleagues, higher language proficiency results in greater code switching ability. Moreover, DeGroot stated that greater metalinguistic awareness results in greater code switches. Metalinguistic awareness refers to the ability to reflect on and manipulate the structural features of language independent of meaning. Hence, greater metalinguistic awareness contributes to greater language ability, which in turn results in greater code switching ability. On the other hand, as mentioned earlier, children code switch to fill lexical gaps. When a child doesn't know a word while speaking in one language, he or she may use the equivalent of that word in the other language in its place, hence resulting in code switching. This might be due to the lack of competence in either the first or second language. Another factor which affects code switching among children would be the communicating partners of the individuals. Children code switch in order to be sensitive to the language capabilities and preference of others. For instance, if the communicating partner of a child fails to understand the meaning of an utterance in one language, a child might code switch to another language so as to maximize the understanding of meaning. Socializing with others affects code switching as well. Individuals code switch to demonstrate solidarity. One might code switch for group membership. For example, one might code switch depending on the ethnic group of the individuals one is socializing with. According to Mahutian, the association theory explains the effect socializing has on code switching. The association theory predicts that speakers' needs or desires to associate with or dissociate from a group will direct their language choice. In other words, one might code switch while socializing with others due to an act of identity. This can be associated with the social cognitive structure of individuals. Code switching might be influenced by in-groups and out-groups. In a stable bilingual situation, minority language and majority language convey oppositional values with respect to solidarity and power. Hence, the language variety that symbolizes in-group identity is promoted, whereas the majority language that is inflected with out-group association is linked to power. Superiority is another factor. One can also code switch in order to demonstrate dominance and to reflect one's social status. The speaker is essentially asserting superiority because I know English and you do not. The next factor would be the years of exposure to an L2. In a study done by Reyes, the results revealed that for children who had a greater exposure to the L2, their bilingual communicative skills advanced and they were able to switch languages with ease. As a result, there was a higher frequency of code switches among those who had greater exposure to the L2. Therefore, the years of exposure to the L2 affects code switching as well. The topic and function of speech affects the social linguistic functions of code switching. In a study conducted by Reyes, which examined 7 and 10-year-old immigrant Spanish-speaking children in the United States, found that the type of code switching was dependent on whether children were engaged in social talk or talk pertaining to a school-related task. For example, it was found that the functions for which code switching was used in a social talk differed from the functions for which code switching was used in a school-related talk. Lastly, affection or a lack of affection has been found to affect code switching as well. Code switching can be used by speakers to express certain feelings. For instance, it has been found that participants code switch from their first language, which in this case was Arab, to their second language, English, to demonstrate annoyance. Similarly, when individuals want to demonstrate feelings of affiliation with others, they tend to code switch as well. Lastly, similar to the factors of socializing, under social factors we have in-group and out-group, which affects the preference choice of language. Furthermore, the context of elicitation has been found to affect code switching as well. Zentella found that bilingual speakers were more likely to code switch when narrating and telling jokes, as opposed to making purchases or answering interview questions. Elicitation contexts such as narrating stories from picture books are more cognitive demanding and may require greater linguistic complexity than conversation context, in which the children may select the topic of conversation. In essence, code switching is about the use of 2 or more languages within the same conversation with one specific person. In majority of code switching cases, people are more likely to code switch single words as compared to phrases and clauses. In serving a variety of functions, the way code switching is applied is largely dependent on the objective of the conversation between individuals.